I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is KDot. Today's episode, new offensive coordinator and assistant head coach Eric Bieniemy gave his introductory press conference. We're going to talk about that. We are also going to talk a little bit about ownership news that some of the news broke yesterday about Jeff Bezos hiring a firm. So we're going to jump into that a little bit. At C. Gasparino's at it again, adding more scoops to Twitter. So we may touch on his tweets. And then we're going to jump into the comment mailbag after the pod. I went to the DC Defenders game with the Lemons and the Beer Snake. And so maybe we talk about that. But first things first, KDot, how are you doing, man?
I am doing fantastically. Ever since I saw that Bieniemy press conference, I felt like I want to run through a brick wall. And
why don't we go ahead and just get started and dive into the emotions of what we felt during that press conference. So once again, Eric Bieniemy was introduced yesterday as our assistant head coach and offensive coordinator, and he was electric. I don't think there is a single fan that could have watched that thing, any part of it, and gone bad hire. PR stunt, as some people have said. It's ridiculous. This guy, to me, at least from the press conference perspective, the real deal. The energy you felt during that press conference was incredible. You could tell the Washington media as they're tweeting are just like, wow, this guy, incredible. KDot, why don't we start with your thoughts overall? We'll jump into mine and maybe a little bit of the insights we gained from it as well.
So I will say this. I should specify. What made me want to run through a brick wall was the conversation I saw him have with Terry McLaurin.
Go ahead.
It was incredible. Like, as far as and you see Terry's eyes light up like a kid on Christmas, and you see all the possibilities and everything are just going in his head, and it's just a giddiness to it, and they can't wait to get to work. And oh man, I love direct feedback. I want somebody to just coach me right away. And Eric's like, well, we can't talk football yet, young man, but when we get there, that felt great. The press conference also, the entire thing I'm doing when I'm watching the press conference is like, how the fuck isn't this guy a head coach? Like, that's the only thing I kept thinking the entire time is like, we got to steal. Like, at least it feels that way, right? Now, nothing has changed for me. I know that I told you last week, and I've said before, I almost blame myself for being part of the media machine in a sense on the criticism that Eric Bieniemy
stuff gets peddled constantly from all sides.
Understood. And there's still a little part of me that might believe a little bit of that deep down. So I do think the jury's still out on this. But when you look at like all these press conference gaffes these coaches have had over the last how many years, including some of them have gone on to do great things. Nick Sirianni after the first press conference did not seem too promising in the sense that we were ready to make fun of him. And he did. But we
did make fun of him. Let's keep it real. Yeah.
No, we totally made fun of him. But then you also have guys like Adam Gase who look like they did 25 billion lines of coke before they went and did the press conference. His eyes just fucking bugged out. It's like they're just ready. But then he sucked. So it's like, you never know. The press conference is done. But what I did think was like, how the fuck could this guy have gone to that many interviews and not get the gig? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Even as we said last week, how you could be a part. You don't even have to be the chief guy. And it seems like he was the chief guy. Chief guy. The one responsible for out-coaching the Philadelphia Eagles defense coordinator. And you look at both of those coordinators on the losing Super Bowl team are both head coaches now. It's kind of fucking ridiculous. So just with that, I just, the vibe and the energy I got. Now, he did do a lot of coach speak shit. A lot of stuff that's like, there's no real substance there, but you can't really expect anything else in the practice. He's not going to go over X's and fucking O's for you, or everybody wanting him to say the juicy soundbite on why isn't he a head coach. He handled himself as a consummate professional. which to me is huge, especially with as much as I love and respect Ron Rivera. There are times when it comes to press conferences where you can tell he needs more media training. Eric Bieniemy seems like if there's one thing that Kansas City knows how to do is get these guys in a room with the media and knowing the right things to say and when. And that alone for Washington, just from a PR standpoint for our own selves and our brand, as far as the Commanders, is extremely important.
It could be one of the reasons why he's assistant head coach is to help Ron out with the media. Be like, hey, just watch this. What I wanted to point out, and I agree with everything you said there, KDot. A few things stuck out to me. One, he was brilliant in that this was a press conference that was going to get a lot of national attention. It's not every day a coordinator position is going to get a lot of national attention for a press conference, right? Eric Bieniemy's story is pretty well documented at this point. A lot of people asking, why isn't he a head coach? They've talked about it on ESPN, on NFL Network. They've talked about it on various YouTube channels. I mean, everyone's covering this right now. And to me, he handled it so well because he now has on tape a really good interview overall. That's basically what he did. And everyone is now asking from the charisma standpoint, how on earth is he not a head coach just as you did? Right now, these NFL head coaching things, they go for hours, these interviews and stuff like that. Who knows what was asked, stuff like that. You and I have our feelings on it. And I believe there's a degree of truth to it when you see that Matt Nagy and Doug Peterson get head coaching gigs. They never called plays in Kansas City. So there's that element to it. The things that stood out to me. One, I loved how he was in the present moment. A lot of people are asking about the head coaching stuff. What are your thoughts on it? Are you ever going to become one? Why'd you come here? Stuff like that. And he kept talking about, where are my feet? My feet are right here. They're planted on the ground right here.
You know what I'm going to say, Nicky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that too. And his ability to stay in the moment was incredibly important to me. His correct assessment and diagnosis that this is a people's business was huge. All about developing relationships. I don't hear enough people talk about that. He talked about his connections to Ron Rivera. He talked about his connections to Martin Mayhew. He talked about these connections that he's had to people in the organization. So when you hear why Washington and he goes, why not Washington? He's explicitly telling you why. It's a people's business. So you put these things together. He's present-minded. He is focused on developing relationships because not everyone receives information the same way. He points that out as well. How do I get the best out of these people? The numbers will take care of themselves. I don't give a damn if we run. I don't give a damn if we throw. I don't care about that. The goal is to win the game, and sometimes it's going to be ugly. He did everything he was supposed to do in that press conference. Now, my only reservation is that a lot of people nail their press conference. You hear that all the time. A home run press conference. This one had a certain energy attached to it that I felt was different. You could feel that the winning that came with him from Kansas City, where he kept citing, hey, 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, won 2 of them, 5 AFC championship games. I was coordinator for 5 years. What do you think happened? The man, to me, is a stud. He knows it. And I was a big fan of the difference between I and Eric Bieniemy, because sometimes you'd say Eric Bieniemy is a football coach. And then he would go, I'm coming here to work. I loved that. I wish someone had asked, is there a difference between Eric Bieniemy and I? Are these 2 different personalities going on? But I absolutely love the press conference, KDot.
No, I'm with you, man. It's I think you summed it up perfectly when you said he nailed what he had to do in this press conference. We didn't have a maroon and black moment. There was none of that nonsense. There was Hail Commanders, but that's about it. I'm cool with that. I don't give a shit. Yeah, I mean, who the fuck knows what we're really supposed to say?
Yeah, in a sense, he nailed that too.
Right. Hail to the Reds. Hail Command. I like Hail Commanders. It actually kind of works. Kind of like
not gonna lie, I kind of liked it too.
Commander.
It's a lot better.
It kind of works. Hail Commanders.
HC.
Hail
Head
Commanders.
Coach.
Just saying, it kind of works out. There's another takeaway that when kind of going through it and really sifting through all of it, right? Which is that we had questions about where the leash would be for Ron Rivera and as far as the mechanisms of the decision itself, which, as much as they were illuminating, if true, still leave me kind of a little confused. But I guess to a certain degree, maybe it's. But they talk to Eric and they say what was the ownership involvement? Who did you talk to? And he says Ron was the guy at the head of this. He talked to Jason, he talked to Marty Mayhew, he talked to all those guys, but Ron was the guy. And then even when they talked to Ron a little bit about like what was Dan, and he said, well, I talked to Dan and Dan told me to go out there and get any guy that I wanted. And when I told him it might not take, there's one guy that we really want, but he's still kind of tied up with the Super Bowl run. Well, do whatever you need to do. Do anything you need to do. Just do it. And it was like, I don't know, a little part of me thought maybe, no, I'm not going to say that.
Go ahead.
I regret that.
No. Go ahead.
Maybe the best move Dan's ever made. Maybe Dan has learned.
That's the beauty of being in the moment, KDot.
Right. Like Dan had a good moment, if this is true, right? And I still didn't get it quite. Like, I didn't understand. I didn't think Dan would be okay just signing checks to whomever he's not going to be there for. But then there's another opportunity where, all right, if I got to sign this small check right now, knowing I got at least $6 billion coming down the road, then who gives a fuck? I ain't got to pay the rest of the contracts out. So maybe there is a little bit of freedom in that he really just doesn't give a fuck. Ron, do whatever it is you want to do. But I think that with this hiring, what it means to me is that Ron is in full control. And if Ron's in full control of this thing, I think he's above Marty Mayhew, he's above everybody. Ron's in control. Then I think anything is possible when it comes to what we do at free agency, when it comes to what it is the plan is, when it comes to all those things. I think we need to keep our eyes open to they're going to do everything they possibly can to win these fucking games and win them as soon as they can. And a part of me feels good about that. I mean, at the end of the last season, just a few weeks ago, we were talking about what it is we need to do to kind of get past the Ron Rivera era. And I think I just need to reiterate that it's not over at all. And that what we need to do is not necessarily look that far ahead, but what it is we need to do this year to put together a winning product on the field, and to potentially have Ron Rivera be our Lombardi trophy wielding fucking head coach here in Washington.
Yeah. I mean, so long as someone is in the position, you give him a shot. And and Rivera, to me, has done a good job in getting a really qualified, we've said overqualified offensive coordinator here, right? Yep. And so now we have Eric Bieniemy as the OC. We have Ron Rivera as the head coach, and we have Jack Del Rio as our defensive coordinator. That is a very experienced bunch of coaches that we have over here. Excellent point on Ron Rivera looking to be the one in control here, based on the search, based on Dan saying, hey, do whatever you want. In a sense, this might be ownership being hands off, which is what we've asked for the longest time, because if they're in the middle of a sale and Ron's getting full control, hey, that could end up being a good thing. And one other thing you alluded to at the very beginning, when you were mentioning your Eric Bieniemy Dotson running through a brick wall, was that Terry McLaurin was there. Yeah. Sam Howell was there. Yep. Saahdiq Charles was there. Antonio Gibson was there. Brian Robinson was there. Kam Curl was there. Logan Thomas was there. So all these different guys showing up for a coordinator press conference. I think I was looking around a little bit, somewhat unprecedented, because this is also somewhat of an unprecedented move. Yeah. Right? OC to OC. But just to say that the team is excited, the people are bought in. I don't even know if I mentioned Sam Howell was there, but Sam Howell was there, of course. I'm excited, and you should have every reason to be excited moving forward. Now, they can't talk about football yet. He talked about the importance of OTAs. He talked about the importance of training camp, of vet camp. So he's already like, hey, listen, you better fucking be there. And it's pretty well documented this dude's a hard ass. Okay? I mean, if you guys got the opportunity to see it, there's a clip that NFL Network did way back when he was the running backs coach for the Minnesota Vikings. KDot, did you see this with AP? Yeah. I mean, AP at this point, I think he had won the MVP already. And if he hadn't, he was about to. And then you could see why. But it's literally.
What did he say in the huddle?
What did he say in the huddle? He kept saying it over and over. He wasn't letting AD walk away from him.
Well, I'm telling you what I thought. I ain't asked what you think. What did he say in the huddle?
You would just repeat. What did he say in the huddle? I'm telling you what I thought. What did he say in the huddle? No, listen, I'm just telling what did he say in the huddle. Like, it literally was this back and forth. And I love that he didn't give a shit what the pedigree of the player was. Right?
No fucks.
And that's what you want out of a coach.
And that's when you hear the stories about him and Patrick Mahomes getting at it. If that's the case, and Mahomes has alluded to it, right? That feels like when Mahomes talks about, it seems like that exchange that he had with Adrian Peterson, which is, I'm not here to demean you. I'm not here to make you feel bad for the sake of feeling bad. This is what we talked about last year in the sense of with the conversations that aren't happening in Ashburn, right? That it doesn't feel as though people are, there's no conflict. good conflict. There's no people challenging each other to do this or to do better. It didn't feel like that existed, right? And you can see that when Terry McLaurin and those guys show up, and when Terry made sure that he, as soon as he could, get over and talk to Eric. And he talked about, yeah, we got some. I think you're going to be impressed with some of the guys we have on this team. You can tell Terry probably made that call. Hey, Logan. Hey, Saahdiq. Hey, guys, we're going tomorrow. Let's get down there. Let's do this. And you see the excitement that they have, that there is a guy that they know is a Super Bowl winning guy that is now in the house. And they are going to be, from a personal standpoint, when we're talking about the relationships, right? They show up and show Eric, we got your fucking back from day one. That matters. Those things matter. And then number two, if they have the buy-in from a personal standpoint, you could sense with the Scott Turner thing, it never felt like those guys would be running through a brick wall for the dude. No knock on Scott Turner. It's just not the vibe that it felt. It feels like from day one, we have a complete unit that's ready to do whatever it takes to work together to make it happen.
Absolutely.
And that's just, it's great.
Yeah, it's super exciting. It's still a young team, especially on offense. We got to sort out the offensive line, of course. We'll be talking about free agency shortly. I mean, not in this episode, but as it gets closer, as along with the draft and stuff like that. Looking forward to seeing what acquisitions we make and what moves we make, and continue to see, is Ron Rivera truly in control over here? It seems like he is.
Spoiler, there's only one thing draft wise. I'm only looking at one guy. And I have, we don't have to talk about it this episode, but I have been burning through YouTube videos.
In the comment section, go ahead and just guess who.
Hey, look, last year Kyle Hamilton was my guy. What would he end up being? PFF's highest rated safety in the NFL.
We were going gaga over Kyle Hamilton. Now I'm incredibly thankful that we got Jahan, because even when we did the post draft thing, I was like, okay, I wasn't really expecting us to reach for Jahan. But then you look at what he does, and it's like, okay, this dude's just as solid a prospect as it gets. I mean,
and with Bieniemy and moving him around the field and doing this thing, it gets a little exciting.
All right. Well, anyway, so that was Eric Bieniemy's press conference. Every reason to be excited, fans. Let's move on and talk about some ownership updates. So first things first, Jeff Bezos apparently has hired an investment firm to look at potentially buying the Washington Commanders. That was broken by the Washington Post and many others. What'd you say?
The Allen and Company?
Something like that. Yeah. But the point is, it's an investment firm. I would assume it's legitimate with Bezos doing this. And his own newspaper broke it. And so that you can actually look at that and be like, oh, okay, well, he wants that out there. CNN, CBS Sports, ESPN, actually, everyone's covering this now. And then you got Charles Gasparino, our favorite Twitter follow, of course, from last time, at C Gasparino, with a couple different tweets talking about Jeff Bezos and Jay-Z potentially joining forces to buy this. It's interesting to me that there would be some sort of joining forces bit there, just because Bezos, I feel like it's just a drop in the bucket for him. But anyway, that seems to be the story that is coming out right now. To me, the biggest thing was Darren Haynes was interviewing, after Bieniemy's press conference, Jason Wright, team president, and he was asking him about the sale. And Jason Wright was saying, look, I mean, that financial transactions of this size and magnitude always very, very heavily under wraps and stuff like that. So all I can say, I'm not going to give you anything new. All I can say is it continues to push forward. That to me was a big deal, because that was the first time that I can think of, that an actual member of the team, let alone the team president, is saying it is continuing. An acknowledgement that it's occurring for all the naysayers out there who are like, it's not happening. It's not happening. Your team president, is saying it is continuing to push forward. I thought that was a massive statement that not a lot of people picked up on. This is happening, just to be clear, people.
There's never a doubt. There's no doubt on that. It's the silence from the Snyders, which is, you guys know, everyone watching knows, the moment the Snyders have anything in the media that they don't want out in the media, what do? They have a press release. They can't help themselves at any given point in time to try to defend themselves, or to try to paint, or to get an aha gotcha moment for any reporter or anything that they think might have something wrong.
Can I also just quickly mention, now that you've said that, and you also, I think, mentioned it, but I'm just going to be even more explicit about it. When they asked Bieniemy if he had talked to Dan, the very indirect answer was no. All he
Right.
did was mention Ron Rivera, Martin Mayhew. He may have even mentioned Herney at one point, Stokes. Like, he mentioned other guys, Jason Wright. Not once did he mention Tanya or Dan Snyder.
Yep.
So that also speaks volumes. Please continue, KDot.
No, you're 100% right. It's all those pieces matter, and they just point to that one conclusion, which is it's going to be a done deal soon. Like, and then even the Jason Wright thing, like Jason saying that is a wink, wink, nod, nod to everybody to let them know, hey. And I still stand that the more and more I think about it, the more and more it's realized that Wright was not a Snyder pick. This is the league mandated. This is the league placed Jason Wright here in Washington. And if that's the case, he's not beholden to the Snyders. All he's got to do is not piss Dan off enough publicly to keep the job going, right? But that's at least the theory that I'm rolling with nowadays. And if that's the case, then he's telling everybody, like, hey, I'm hearing in the media, I know what you guys are saying right now. It continues to push forward. It's the most I can say. I'm not going to be responsible fucking this up in any way or shape or form, but here's enough for you to relax and be okay with it. And the thing, going back to what made the news in the first place, right, is the article, it drops that Bezos hires Allen and Company. Allen and Company is an investment firm. They were the chief guys that were that helped with the Broncos sale and the Panthers sale. So the last two sales of the NFL teams directly had these guys involved. So to me, it speaks volumes. And the Gasparino article, look, I don't know the guy. I know that he's going back and forth on Twitter with a lot of motherfuckers talking about how many followers they have compared to him, which is never a good sign for a reporter. But the idea from him is all he's doing is adding more detail that we already know. So don't think everything you hear about this is like breaking or grand news.
But he has scoop in all caps, KDot.
All right, so the scoop is the league would prefer someone that has enough money to not create an obstacle when it comes to buying the team. Oh, shit, really?
But KDot, it's his scoop, and it's multiple tweets.
It's so stupid.
By the way,
no
for those that couldn't
I'm
tell,
pulling them up.
Heavy sarcasm on my end. I completely agree with you. It is
The NFL is really pushing Bezos to make.
I love whenever he tweets. It's just fun at this point. I mean, I really enjoy it. Whenever he comes out with a new scoop, I'm like, I almost am like this close to text you, be like, "Hey, Don, have you seen the latest Gasparino?" Like, it's becoming a bit, in my opinion. Like, I know he's trying, but like, it's so out of left field for him because he doesn't tweet about anything football related except for this. Like, this is what he
he's
tweets
close
about.
Personal friends with Snyder, who he spoke to once a year ago.
Right. So anyway, the whole thing is enjoyable. Any other thoughts on ownership right now? It's gonna get done. We just don't know when.
It's gonna get done. I mean, the more I'm a little disappointed that my number was wrong. It looks like my number was wrong as far as what the sell of the team is gonna go for. So it's a little disappointing. But
we don't know.
I thought there'd be more. No, we don't. But right now it feels as though it's not gonna go for as high as I thought it would. And that to me was just the excitement level and the push for owners kind of fighting for this thing. That excites me. Because it makes me feel as though the team that I pour my blood, sweat, and tears and fandom into, people find to think it's valuable instead of being stuck with it. And that's what I want to see. But right now, all the names that are kind of being floating around the team, I'm happy with. Josh Harris, I'm happy with. Jeff Bezos, I'm happy with. Jay-Z even being there as the black face of the organization or something. I'm fine with all of it. Just whatever it takes, we all know there's one guy in particular that needs to go, even if the best move he's ever made just happened not too long ago.
Yeah, well, it might be because he's a bit more hands-off. Gasparino does throw up Mike Bloomberg as somebody to look out for as well in his scoop, all caps. And that was tweet 2 of 2 in said scoop. All right, why don't we just go over and jump to the comment mailbag where we have 3 comments over here. We appreciate you guys, beginning with Patriot Clips. Eric Bieniemy is not a head coach because of height supremacy. He's a short man. Shout out Patriot Clips. Eric Bieniemy is 5'7". KDot, your reaction?
I'm shorter than him, so yeah.
So you can't become a head coach according to Patriot Clips.
That's why I'm not a head coach.
That's the reason.
They told me outright. I tried to be part of an internship program, and they were like, "Hey, the height thing, man, can't do it. Can't do it.
I guess we find nothing but truth there for Patriot Clips. We appreciate the comment and the insight there. It was something we did not discuss on the last episode. I did enjoy the comment, to be honest. And then we have Vindo, who, you know what? Is he an OG officially, or she?
Vindo!
Vindo.
OG!
Vindo, OG. Welcome to the OG Club. Step in the right direction. Let's go. How about you've made it to the summit? Welcome to the OG Club, Vindo. Really appreciate the comment, as always. And then, would you look at that? The Extraordinary Nobodies podcast has a comment here. Mahomes is a god. The Red Sox suck. Now, before I read the rest of this, these things are both true. Now, before I read the rest of this, I need you guys to understand something. When you see a tweet from at Fox News or at CNN or at the Extraordinary Nobodies podcast, remember that there are people behind these tweets. So when you label something as a company and you're like, the company is saying this, it's not this mystical thing. It is a person. I just wanted to point that out because Mahomes is a god and the Red Sox suck. And both things being true, I think only one of those things is true. Also true, you should subscribe to KDot's new podcast. Drops the link. Love my District Divided fam. KDot. What a lovely comment. Really appreciate that. The Extraordinary Nobodies podcast. Find it on YouTube.
I left a comment similar to that the last 4 episodes, and it kept not coming through.
This one finally came through.
Yeah, because I pinned it.
Oh, that's huge.
I logged in through the Dish Divided YouTube and pinned that sumbitch to the top of the goddamn board.
Yeah, you should keep doing that.
I'm going to keep doing that.
You know what's really funny is initially it said that there were 3 comments, but only 2 were showing up, and I had to mess with the settings.
The first time. No,
I had to mess with the settings to
time.
get this to show up on my phone.
That's my second go round trying to get it. It's trying to keep me down, or you're trying to keep me down, and I'm
trying to keep you down. I
know you don't want me leaving. And here's the thing: I might have better chemistry with you than the other guy, but I like the other guy a little bit. And look out, man!
He's a good dude.
He's like, yeah, fuck him.
Hope his nose is okay.
Oh, yeah, here's the thing. So, I can't really Can I tease it? They don't know.
Well, how about this? This was District Divided, DC Sports Podcast. More specifically, a Commanders podcast. I'm Amit, that is KDot. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, comment, etc. After the pod begins right now. Okay, cool. Go ahead. Do what you want to do with this. I was like, we're really venturing into different territory here.
No, it was so you guys, if you're watching this, Brendan has been on the pod, right?
Brendan has been on the pod. Yeah, he was talking about how Jair Alexander is an excellent corner, and we were like, Terry's going to cook him, and then Terry cooked him.
Right.
So we're experts. In case you guys
he's got
were
so
wondering.
many. Me and him have been arguing about the Aaron Rodgers thing like so fucking much. It's hilarious. But so I do the show with him. He just moved to St. Louis.
Move there? Or is he just there temporarily?
3 months. 3 to 4 months.
Okay, short-term move. Yeah,
short-term move. So he's over there, and the thing is just a fresh start, just kind of get away from it all for a little bit. He's like house sitting, dog sitting, whatever. And I guess when he's being introduced to the dogs, they attacked him, and he sent photos to us in the group. Where he sent a photo to me first, and I'll save for what happened within the family dynamic and how I fucked up. Because I also date his sister. So there's a lot of, hey, I told you this. You don't need to tell her this.
I'm not going to lie. I thought you were never going to reveal that.
What?
That you date his sister.
Oh, I was about to say something. I'm going to save it for the Extraordinary Nobodies.
Which you can find on YouTube through the link.
You find on there? I had the AI that I use for a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Start creating a song called "I'm Fucking Your Sister" to just.
Oh Lord! Oh wait a minute. By the way, new episode or new season of Drive to Survive came out today.
I'm holding off until I've got like a full day of.
That's going to be binged.
Nothing else will matter when I start that.
Yeah, completely agree. Just block out the calendar.
They know what they're doing. They're doing a perfect job at this. Drive to Survive is an incredible show. We are a week out, a little over a week out from the first race. Mm-hmm. Even me, so I do, as you know, and as I think people know at this point, I do consulting for the largest bar group in DC. and I handle majority of their marketing, social media, things like that. And I got a hot phone call from the GM of the umbrella company the other day. So like the like third in command of the big group.
Franklin Hall's parents.
Right. If you're a fan of Franklin Hall or parents, I really shouldn't name them because of the views I have on this show, but whatever. If you're a fan of those bars, we
talked about it last time. They already know.
If you see anything on social media you like from them, it's me. I did it. So like I get a hot phone call one morning. He's like, "Hey, I've been told you're the F1 expert here at the group." I'm like, "What?" Like you're the F1 guy. We're getting phone calls and stuff about what is happening? Why are we getting phone calls about? And I did a full breakdown about Drive to Survive, how the season started, and what the schedule's going to do, and we're going to do this, and that. And they're like, "All right, so should we start moving some manpower, getting the bartenders open at 7 a.m. if need be for the races and everything?" I'm like, hold your horses. I was like, here's the thing. Americans are dumb. We're dumb. And Drive to Survive is out, which means we are all Formula One fans for the first 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, don't put anything extra into this Formula One thing.
100% right. That is a great read.
I was like, the first race, bunch of people going to show, but it was like, it's an early race. Don't expect a lot. Second race, you might get a turnout because it's a 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time race. That might work.
Additionally, it's the second race of the season. Everyone's got hope. Like, yeah.
See what I'm saying? But when you get around that third race, when not these races aren't week to week, sometimes it's 2 week gaps. There's this gap in it. It's like, it ain't worth it's not worth it.
That's where you got to know who people are rooting for. Because if they've gotten off to a good start, you want to keep the good vibes going. I don't know how easily you can just quickly turn something around like that. But let's say you're a Mercedes fan and you just have 2 great races to start. I'm pretty sure people are going to show up for race number 3. But if they get off to a rough start, I don't think they're showing up. I think they're like, you know what? I need to switch the vibe up. I need to stay at home and I need to watch here and scream at my TV right here.
If
they even watch, you're right.
That's the thing. I talk about Formula One on the All Sorts of Sports podcast, which is another podcast, but I won't plug because we got enough subscribers there that I'm okay for right now, even though we're on a sabbatical. We're taking a little break. Although we did drop an episode about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Pretty fucking good episode, in my opinion.
There you go.
But I lost my train of thought plugging stuff. Okay.
that can happen. I've been told that's actually a thing.
It does happen from time to time. But doing All Sorts of Sports, we started getting into Formula One because one of my co-hosts, James, is huge into Formula One. I've dabbled in Formula One because I like auto racing. So like I grew up a NASCAR fan.
Of course you
do. The first race I ever watched from start to end in NASCAR, February 2001, Dale Earnhardt died. And
why'd you watch it?
Huh?
Why'd you do that?
In one sense, I felt terrible. It was like, holy
Let's dive
shit.
into that. Yeah.
I was like, the first race, the guy died. It might be my fault.
Might be.
Then on the other hand, I was also saying, this is the most entertaining shit.
Oh my God.
Ever.
Of course.
Like the stakes are higher than any other thing that I watch competitively. Holy fuck. And I was hooked. And I mean hooked. I'm the guy who, well, after 9/11, because it's like the following seasons, after 9/11, I'm USA rah, rah, rah guy. Okay. I'm starting to lose weight. I'm going to go in the Air Force. I can't fucking wait. I'm doing this, that, and the other. I had my thoughts politically. They are a little complicated for a 7th grader, but I was
watch the Extraordinary Nobodies podcast. Go ahead. That's my plug for you.
Thank you. But I used to stand up before every race. If I had a hat, I'd take it off, and I'd actually stand up for the Star Spangled Banner. I would actually stand in my living room and actually keep my hand over
I did that one time. The U.S. was playing the Czech Republic in the World Cup. We lost 3-0. Never did it again. Please continue.
But NASCAR was the shit. And then my dad worked for the longest time at Home Depot. I was a huge Tony Stewart guy. It was my thing. And then because Tony Stewart was also a IndyCar racer, it got me into open wheel racing. And then knowing about open wheel racing, you always heard about this Formula One thing. And it was like, all right, well, I'll get into that. So I used to watch it or dabble, but it wasn't until Drive to Survive that it really took off for me. But even with that, like if my team's not going well, the same way that a lot of you miss out after a couple weeks. If the race is on at 2:00 in the fucking morning, you're like,
but here's the thing. So the thing about F1 is it is a sport that snowballs in both directions. When you're doing well, you're doing really, really well.
Mhm.
And when you're not doing well, the wheels fall off. I mean, you can
Sometimes
take that as a
literally.
pun if you'd like to. Yeah, I was going to say it is just one of those things where it's not like let's say the NFL where there's a lot of parity these days. Like you
Right.
see new playoff teams the very next year. A lot of it is fairly, static in terms of like, okay, if you haven't seen Drive to Survive yet, there's a certain team that just excels in the early seasons. And it's consistent, right? And so it's one of those things where, like, to KDot's point, if your team's not doing well, it's a lot harder to stay on it because you almost know what's going to happen. It's just one of those things.
No, but that's auto racing, right? So like the thing with
Mm.
NASCAR for the longest time, the reason I got into it is I got into NASCAR at the time where it was like we're reaching a peak of these cars are too fast now. So like what happened in
Okay.
NASCAR was that they started getting the cars to a point where we were looking at 200 plus miles per hour.
Yeah.
And these guys would be 5 wide on a track, 6 inches away from each other.
Which, oh my gosh.
And it's
yeah.
terrifying. That the people like, well, it's fucking NASCAR. They're just driving around, making left turns the entire fucking time. It's like, I get it.
Hey, don't blame the
surface
people.
level.
That was South Park.
But I understand it from a surface level. But when you start getting into the nitty gritty of like how this is working, and especially on some of the races like Daytona or like Talladega, you're waiting for what they used to call the big one. Which there were some races where there'd be an accident where out of 43 cars that are out there on the track, 35 of them might be involved in one wreck.
Mhm.
Like it used to get bad. And then they started doing the car Tomoa thing after Dale Earnhardt died. They did all kinds of stuff to change it up. So a lot of times in NASCAR, like things happen and you're not seeing a whole lot of jockeying for positions.
Mhm.
Formula One's like that, but on steroids.
Yes.
Usually the only thing you're seeing as far as people jockeying for position really in most races is in the first lap. The first 2 laps, beyond the first 2 laps, the cars start really figuring out, all right, who's faster, who's not, and they go. And then it usually keeps that exact same pace unless you have an unreliable car throughout the race.
Mhm.
What people gauge as far as a good race or a bad race is sometimes when things happen that we're not expecting. If you have fucking Charles Leclerc, as it happened a lot last season, had a great car, and then something fucking breaks. And it's like, holy shit, they left the door open for Red Bull to
He
come
had
through.
a great qualifying car.
There was that.
It was not built for a longer race. I will tell you that.
So that's the thing is like in football you're watching because the plays. Each play has something exciting that's happening. You never know what quite's going to happen. In Formula One, there's a bit of that, but it's more about the behind the scenes drama. It's more about what happens with this, or what does this mean if this car breaks again for this driver, this team, this career, this, that. What changes they're going to make? Usually, and even if they make changes, you're not going to see the changes until 2 races from now because they're all long process. It gets in, you start realizing.
And it takes, and the races happen so quickly. It's
Yeah.
like 1 week, and then the very next week, you got another race in a different country. So, like, there's time traveling. Time traveling. People need to spend. Where is that time coming from, right? Because you're quickly turning around. And so, like, it is a really interesting sport. And the way Netflix has done Drive to Survive is spectacular.
You ever heard about the new show?
Which new show?
Quarterback.
Yes. That's the one with Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota, right? Where they follow them around.
That's going to be fire.
I'm looking forward to it. They even have, is it called Breakpoint? I can't remember the tennis one.
I haven't watched it, but yes.
I haven't watched it yet, but the way that they did the trailer was really good. And so, like, these guys have figured out sort of that template of like how to get people to watch these types of documentaries. Very fascinated by it.
From what I understand about Breakpoint, after you watch 2 episodes,
well, there's only so much drama in tennis, you'd think, right?
That's what makes Formula One so. This is what makes Drive to Survive in Formula One is that
because there's inner team drama also, which is amazing.
There's money. There's some of the best backdrops ever. You're talking about young guys. The oldest guy might be 30-something years old at any given point in time in the race, unless you got like Fernando Alonso.
I was going to say Alonso's.
But beyond that, you're talking about young dudes, sometimes teenagers, 20-some-year-olds, multi-millionaires living in Monaco and other places. Some of the hottest fucking girlfriends or hottest women on the face of the earth. These dudes are, they're rock stars. But then they also have to train and work their asses off. And at any given point in time, one of the other guys might be jockeying for their seat, or there's somebody upcoming jockeying for their seat. Daniel Ricciardo, one of the most beloved guys in all of Drive to Survive, one of my favorite drivers, is out at McLaurin.
Very first driver that was shown in the show.
Yep. He's sitting on his ass. He's sitting on his couch at home.
I think comfortably, though. Just given
very comfortably.
Yeah, I think he's totally.
But I don't know if he's comfortable with that, because I think he wants to race again.
I think give him a year. Give him a year, and he'll be back on.
Depends on what's open. Depends on what's opening. But
well, he needs that fire to come back. It looked like that fire was just. Listen, why don't we talk more? Why don't we talk more about F1 when people get the chance to watch this season? Because then we can dive into it. I wanted to quickly. Well, there are a couple things I wanted to talk about. The Defenders game.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
Oh shit.
The Defenders game, and also just sports betting in general.
Defenders game. How was it? It went kind of viral, at least locally. What the fuck was going on?
Listen, best sporting environment in DC in years, and Audi Field was half full. So we're talking 9,000 people, 10,000 people. I just wanted to highlight that because of how it shows how starved people are to have a team in this city. Yep. If it was that lit an atmosphere where we're trying to build the beer snake and security's taking it down and we revolt by throwing lemons onto the field, and then Seattle doesn't score a point after lemons touch the field. In fact, we get a pick six in what is now beautifully and endearly called the lemon zone, because that's where the lemons were. And then on the other side, we get another pick. And then Ben DiNucci fumbles at the 1 on the last play of the game, former Cowboys QB, and we're going nuts. I mean, and ESPN's even saying, give the people their beer snake, because anarchy and chaos is broken out at Audi Field, and all they want's a beer snake. I mean, you talk about, and The Rock is there. It was an incredible game. It was an incredible atmosphere. It was a Sunday night at 8 p.m. I wouldn't have it any other way, KDot. I can't wait for the next home game. I mean, it was so much fun. People were yelling all sorts of stuff. Some people were like, I brought my kids here. I'm like, why'd you bring your kids here? Like, there are all sorts of things that were going on in that game. And there was not a single dull moment. I even went with a couple diehard football fans in general. And one of them, DJ. I went with DJ Turner. Shout out DJ. He, as you know, knows football. 2-minute warning. We're up for. What does he do? He runs. He doesn't give a shit about the football game anymore. He runs with his plastic cup to contribute to the beer snake. There was a lot going on at this game. And I can't wait for the next one. The Defenders players were like, keep throwing stuff on. They were egging them on the screen. It says you will be banned from Audi Field if you throw stuff, but then you got the players saying, please continue. There was a lot going on in that game. And it was people were already calling for the backup quarterback, De'Aaron King, who did play well, by the way. There were questions after. It was an amazing game. So much fun. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 if I could.
And the tickets are affordable, right? Like,
paid $18.
Yep. It's going to be jam-packed next game. They're going to sell out.
They'll get a sellout. They will, because the publicity was perfect. And a lot of the people District Divided follows that are Commanders fans could not stop gushing about this game. I used the account to say I couldn't stop gushing about the game. It was so much fun. 100%. 100% we should.
Just fold it in.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and fold that in too. We can even do a day after, as if it were the Commanders, just Defenders review. We can talk about the atmosphere. We can talk about the game. It's really fun. I would say that if it's going to be a night game, maybe don't bring the entire family because it's the XFL. It's going to be one of those games or one of those places where it's just rowdy because the XFL is still figuring out its identity.
I will say, when I went a couple of years ago, when Cardell, what's his name?
Yeah, Cardell Jones.
Cardell Jones, right? Yeah, he was when he was quarterback. It got on TV. That was cool. But
there you go.
It was a fun vibe, and it seems like they've taken that and like expanded it to the max. I mean, Washington's always been known as a good football town, right? Everybody knows the days of RFK. I've even seen, like, recently people have been posting the photo or video from 2012 at FedEx when it was packed. And I look at that and I'm like, I remember that whole era. As much as 2012 as you're saying, we still thought that this was a shell of our former glory as far as and I feel like any inkling that they have to experience that a little bit, or the fan base that have grown up in the area or have parents or relatives that say, we want to be a part of something. And it feels as though the starting point for that might be Audi Field and the Defenders. That's awesome.
And here's the thing about Audi Field, and I think it's very important that it's noted. It is a small stadium.
Yep.
You are basically on top of the field. There is no bad seat. And so the atmosphere gets amplified because of it, because you are right next to the field no matter where you're sitting, basically. At FedEx, you could be really, really far out. You could even be in the hundreds, the 100 level section, which is lower level, but you're still going to be infinitely further than you are at Audi Field, even if you're in the top corner of the stadium. So it really is like, it encourages a lot of sound, a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, even though it only seats about 20,000 people. And again, there were only 9, maybe 10,000 people at this one. And it was louder than I've seen any stadium in quite some time. It was
so dope.
Amazing. And to KDot's point, to your point, man, I think the next one's going to be close to a sellout if it doesn't actually sell out, because it got amazing publicity. And you bet your ass that beer snake is coming back. It is absolutely.
The food was good. Everything about Audi's it's a good stadium.
Great stadium. Great stadium. Going for the DC United home opener tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that as well, but it won't be as loud. It will not be as loud as it was for the DC Defenders.
I know how much you love soccer, so I'm gonna shut the fuck up.
No, it's fine. It's fine. DC United, they're a lost cause. Let's be real. I'll say that. I mean, coach doesn't know what he's doing. Love Wayne Rooney, the player. Wayne Rooney, the manager. They're questions, and they're fair. So, yeah.
I was actually listening to a podcast when I saw Wayne Rooney in an airport and freaked out because nobody else knew who the fuck he was.
Oh yeah, Dulles. Yeah, there were like 8 people there. It literally felt like, shout out semi-pro. It felt like he was landing with the Flint, Michigan Tropics. Like there's just not a lot of, unfortunately, given the recent success, which there is none, of the team, the fanfares died down. Getting rid of Lozada, we can do an entirely separate episode on that. And I could do that. I could do that with Jason DuPaul or somebody else from the DC United season ticket group. I will spare you that episode.
I appreciate it.
I may ask for the background though, just like a black and red, like Vamos United district divided thing.
Oh, I'll fuck background up for you. Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
Soccer blows just on every side.
Well, okay. So, but before we kick this episode off, we were talking about sports betting.
Yes.
And we were talking about the various parlays we were making. Now, KDot, you hit one on your birthday. Congratulations. On the re-inaugural XFL weekend, you went 4 for 4, right?
Yeah, I called every XFL game correctly. I'm pulling up my FanDuel because I'm in the state of Maryland,
nice,
which is awesome as far as being able to bet on sports. Although BetMGM, fuck you.
That's what I use. I have to walk towards Navy Yard so that I'm in the bet zone because it's geofenced.
In order to cash out,
I can cash out from anywhere.
I did an ACH. I have to do an ACH transfer, which takes however many days, whatever I fucking do. Or I have to go to the National Harbor to collect my winnings from them on the app. Ooh. So I pulled almost all of my money out of BetMGM.
So there's
I figured that out.
Oh, interesting. Because there's a BetMGM, I'll call it a shop, but the sports book is in Navy Yard. And so I think I can just like walk over. So at least for me, it's convenient. I can just walk over and just pick it up that way.
Fuck
yeah, no. FanDuel's got a much better reputation of being easier to use, a better UI. Like
the UI is great. It's just the lines aren't the lines and the
also
odds aren't
brilliant. The place bet button's green. That's so smart. Just like little things that make a big difference. Yeah,
it's by far the best. DraftKings has its moments, but they make some of the like trying to pull together a multi-leg parlay with multiple games. It's hard. Caesars is fine, and Bet Rivers feels like you're getting scammed when you log in.
So I've started betting on college basketball a whole lot because once the Super Bowl ended, I was like, all right, cool. Let me find something to do. Soccer season ended, and I was like, okay, well, I got a lot of time on my hands. What am I going to do? There are any number of things I could do. I could clean the apartment. I could take Barkley for a longer walk. I could, maybe get started on that project at work I've been meaning to get started on. Or I could write an R script. I could pull down some numbers and I could start placing some bets. And so that's what I ended up doing. Started off pretty hot, 20 for 20 on these picks, 5 for 5 on the parlays. So I was like, algorithms
hot shit.
dialed in. More recently though. So I was up, and these are, by the way, whenever I say this, like, it sounds impressive, but it was always in the betting range of odds between minus 200 and plus 500. So it was that sort of range, and it mostly was between minus 100 and plus 100, that sort of range over there.
Okay.
But 5 for 5 on parlays to get started. So naturally, I have a god complex about me. I'm like, I figured out college basketball. It's easy. I'll just make $8 to $12 a day over and over and over again, placing $10 bets. And this is just going to go great. Then I hit one that nets me 45. I'm like, you know what? Now we can go odds seeking. We're good to go because we figured this all out. Lose again. Here we are, back to reality. But overall, 27 for 30 on these picks. Algorithm's starting to hum a little bit here, KDot.
Yeah, my wins and losses are a lot different than you because I also bet quite a bit every day.
I'm just doing testing to get ready for March Madness.
Fuck that. I'm a full-blown addict. This is my cocaine. There's no getting around it. I'm an addict. I well know that I'm an addict. It runs in my blood.
Well, if you need college numbers, let me know. I'm your guy.
Well, I remember before the pod, we were trying to figure out what did I place on my birthday, but then I realized I got paid out on my birthday for bets that I had put together days before because there was no basketball. I did win All-Star. I picked the 3-point winning contest winner and the slam dunk contest winner.
Oh, I mean, Mac McClung was easy money. I think we talked about that. I was like, dude, this is all he does. Like, it's incredible. Anyway,
it was plus 860. Amazing time.
To parlay those two?
Yeah, I parlayed them.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, why wouldn't you take Dame?
And then I had all 4 of the XFL games correct. And that was plus 759.
You had yourself a weekend.
And then the 5-leg parlay the day before in hockey hit all 5 legs. That's plus 1077.
And who'd you bet on in hockey again?
Sidney Crosby, Alex DeBrincat, Philip Gustafsson, Anze Kopitar, and Adam Fox. Adam Fox was strong. That's a strong name right there. So I will say that we should have a section of District Divider that's called Hockey Corner. Hilarious, given it's a rink. And you just tell us your parlay names, for hockey. They're fucking and you have to name them,
and it's our job to find it and see what names you were talking about.
Oh, the worst is when there's no football is my number one batting sport.
Okay.
I know enough about it. It is what it is. Basketball, now it's turned me into watching basketball during the week before the playoffs. This is not me. I hate that I've become that, but it's fun, although very frustrating sometimes. So we were talking about our buddy Chris had a housewarming party a few weeks ago. I couldn't go because I had an issue with what I thought was my tire. It wasn't my tire. My rim was fucked. So my actual wheel was fucking leaking air. So it had a crack in it. So I had to buy a new wheel. I bought it with all winnings.
Must have felt good.
It felt great. Like, not dipping into the bank account to fix something and just being like, I can play with my winnings. It was great. And I am up, hoping it continues up. There's some guys, everybody's got a Discord group or this, that, and the other. I will say Parlay Science are my guys.
Okay.
Love them. And they also...
Exactly how many plugs do you have today?
Enough. There's one that I wasn't sure if you're going to be okay with.
Go ahead.
All right. My appearance on Dish Divided is brought to you by Fleshlight. No, I'm joking. I would love an endorsement of those guys.
If you were sponsored by Fleshlight.
Fleshlight and Roman. Like, erections and fake vaginas.
Thank the Lord this hard stop's coming. Oh, hard stop. There we go. Okay. You know what? Go ahead.
We can brand our own lube.
I'm just not going to say anything. Oh man. Well, this really feels like a point where we can maybe just call it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I think this is it. We'll see you guys.
I had a Fleshlight story. It's hilarious, but we'll save it.
Tune in next week.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.